Hey everyone, we've got some news around Geely joining NIO for battery swapping. So you possibly have heard about this during this week, right? And in this video, I will give you my thoughts around a question by a user in the Patreon community, and go also through a couple of slides here and back to the Bailey Gifford prospectus, because I think all of that is an attempt to make sense of what all of the things, the partnership, cooperation agreements that are currently happening here, because that's also the central piece here of Steve's question in the Patreon community, that he's unsure whether or not it's the right move that NIO is opening up the battery swapping to competitors, and how will Geely and Chang'an partnership actually add more value to us as NIO investors and stockholders. What's my view on that? Well, first of all, I'm sorry, I'm still not very active on the YouTube channel currently, and I'll possibly keep it like that for a couple of weeks to come. So you can go to Twitter or X now and follow me at _mm85, where I'm occasionally posting, or much more frequently. And of course, in a Patreon community, we'll discuss things on a daily matter as well. But anyways, what I've posted there, it should be a first attempt of an explanation here with how these partnerships are actually part of a bigger picture. So I posted that one last time, and now I've added these green check marks here for both Chang'an and Geely, because one player after another of these logos here on that matrix is now falling within to the battery swapping cooperation agreements with NIO there. I should say that CATL is already today also invested in the NIO battery asset management company. NIO has deals with Sinopec in order to build battery swap stations along highways in China. And Alton is a NIO capital invested company that is doing battery swapping for taxi fleets, and is the second biggest battery swapping provider in China currently by numbers. And I pointed out that NIO might be in the end trying to get all of these players into cooperation agreements. And Li Bin mentioned that they're talking up to 5 currently that they possibly can convert. Now we have Chang'an and Geely, which are big deals. These are huge players in China. For Geely, of course, the significance is also that they have big investment in Mercedes-Benz and Daimler, for example. They have sub-brands like Volvo now, which they bought. They have Polestar and so on. So this is not only about the Geely brand itself, but also, of course, they are selling massive amounts of cars in general. So they are a huge player. So is Chang'an. And I'm also thinking that they're possibly still in talks also with SAIC, which is, by the way, the joint venture partner of Volkswagen in the south of China, BAIC, which is also in the north of China, a joint venture partner with Daimler, so the Mercedes-Benz here in China. And Dongfeng, I also mentioned last time, might be a player. At least they're doing battery swapping. So all of these players are already doing, or in some sort of projects involved in battery swapping. I think one player that is currently missing here in that picture is FAW, which I'm also fully expecting to, come up in such kind of talks. We had the rumors around Hongqi, which is kind of the car that Xi Jinping is driving, which also is doing battery swapping already. I said in the last video, the big deal here is that NIO is going straight to these big companies that are, very valuable here in this sense, simply because they have the sub-brands that are creating their own EV car brands, and also they are the ones who are joint venture partners with all of the Western brands. So instead of going to the Western brands, for example, directly, go through these big holding companies, or the big companies here are dominating the Chinese car market in the end, and try to win those over and do these kind of signing ceremonies here, which by itself are not telling us a lot, right? I think that's where this question from this user is coming from here, because he's trying to understand what are the potentials here for NIO. And first of all, I have to say I don't agree that NIO is doing a mistake here by partnering up and opening their battery swapping network to others. This is like they're trying to make this a mass market phenomenon. They're trying to get as many people to go battery swapping as possible. And I don't think that this is taking away any major selling point for NIO with keeping battery swapping just limited to themselves. In effect, all of these companies, just I mentioned before, are already doing battery swapping. So this is not something that is, just NIO is doing. And it's only the fact that NIO is the one who's doing most prominently and has the most stations in China. And therefore, they want to build on that, because what they have achieved is they are the company for all of these EV players like Xiaopeng, Li Auto, and so on, with the highest rate of patents and this high R&D investments, which they're continuously doing, which they're being criticized right now in days where everyone wants profitable companies only. But NIO is, going and aggressively investing in R&D, in their own IP and so on, and battery swapping is a huge part of that. And so I think it's a strategic thing that they are going to open that one up. And we learned some things which I stated in the last video, which is that there will possibly be 4.0 battery swap stations that will be multi-brand and possibly have those 6 drive-through channels which will be put on highways and therefore can serve maybe all of these brands which are going to join these type of cooperation agreements that we've seen now Chang'an and Geely to establish with NIO. And here's the first point. I don't think that NIO is definitely going to open up their NIO swap stations to others. Maybe some selected brands. I could imagine, for example, if Hongqi comes around, if Porsche might be a player, which I think is currently really rather unrealistic, but a more realistic one, I think, will be Mercedes in China. I think that one is actually going to happen at some point, whenever the time is right. But I think those might be more realistic to be able to join a NIO swap station network and be able to swap there. But I'm not expecting that for example, Chang'an brands currently, or maybe some of the Geely brands, the current ones, that they will be able to use NIO swap stations. So I don't think this is taking away any value proposition or added value from existing NIO users. As I pointed out in my last video, the NIO users will have the benefit that with each new generation, they will still be able to do swapping with their cars, with their current cars, and so they will be compatible. And these big swap stations that will be multi-brand, that will be open to mass market brands and so on, possibly, they can also be used by NIO users. So it's in the interest of NIO users as well that these partnerships are going to happen, because it will just give them more options to go and swap at highways, possibly. At least that's my speculation here, if that's going to happen. Now, what I'm also thinking is going to happen is that there will be brand swap stations of these partners that will be built in their own name. For example, let's say Geely or Chang'an, they may decide to create a new battery swappable car and launch it either under their current brand like Geely or Chang'an, or under a new brand or an existing sub-brand. And they will continue to also, in some cases, build their own swapping networks. So, we've just seen the announcement of Mercedes-Benz and BMW partnering up in China for building out supercharger networks. And this is kind of, it's marketing, it's something that you need to have as a brand, especially as a luxury brand. And so even if we get those huge battery swap stations at the highways and so on, which are multi-brand, I think each of the brands that are committed to battery swapping, they might still think they want also to invest into their own network, just like NIO has done with building more than 2,000 swap stations. And so the only thing is, nobody will catch NIO anymore. Nobody will build more NIO's battery swap stations than NIO anymore. And so if you're going to buy a NIO vehicle, you can swap at all of these multi-brand stations and possibly even at other brand stations if they're open to it. But you will definitely have the best battery swap network. On top of that, the NIO battery swap stations. And that will most likely be very exclusive or only open to a couple of really fitting brands, just like I've mentioned before. And therefore, I don't think this is taking away any benefit for current NIO users or prospective NIO users. It's just the simple analogy, just the fact that you can also fill up other cars with gas doesn't make you not buy your Mercedes if you're a Mercedes buyer, right? In the end, the fact that battery swapping will become more present and possibly they're all going to double down on building out the infrastructure, doesn't take away any sales for NIO. In fact, I think it's rather investing into creating these network effects in the end. And here's also, of course, connected now again to the initial question here by Steve. How will this benefit in NIO by the end? Because in these agreements here, we don't hear much tangible, right? There is no word around how NIO will be making money on that. So let me just first bring up the Baillie Gifford slide here again. You may know about this prospectus. I've covered it many times before. This is one of the biggest shareholders of NIO, and they're explaining why they are owning it. I think if we go back, when was it created? Was this 2015? I'm not sure about this. No, it's definitely a couple of years old, this prospectus. And back then already, this must be around IPO time or not much later, they were already saying, NIO will have up to 1 million premium vehicles a year of sales. So that's their sales target, and licensing IP to a further 1 million. So this has been in here as a strategic revenue pool or revenue stream at some point in time later on by Baillie Gifford. And the way this works is these investors investing such a large chunk into NIO there, they have direct access to NIO management. They can call them up and have a conversation about what are their goals, what are the vision, what's the plan, how they are thinking of disrupting the industry. And I'm sure they have done that before going and putting out such kind of a prospectus. So we can, see that this has been the long-term plan all along. And it seems that only now these puzzle pieces are actually coming together here, although not really visible yet in terms of revenue, right? But these informations, these information advantages that these big investors are having, these are hard to read sometimes. They are not very, very obvious. You can't go and read this type of a press release here and immediately get a sense of it. And I think that's where all of the new investors are struggling, where Wall Street is struggling. They cannot simply put something into their Excel sheet and say, now NIO is worth a couple more millions or ideally billions. No, that's not happening. And that's why we see such a kind of really low market reaction to that in a sense. Now, this also led me to write down a couple of points of how I think this can be coming up in revenue streams. So Baillie Gifford talks about license incomes that could happen with that. I said in my last video already, I think these battery swaps, sorry about this, this battery swap stations here that are multi-brand that might be announced maybe at NIO Day, I think that these could be actually the basis for the Alps platform, which might be also a multi-brand platform. So this means that the partners like Geely or Chang'an, they might start developing vehicles based on this Alps platform, in my point of view. And that might be a very compatible platform in terms of supporting different battery packs, different EV architectures, and so on, and securing these interoperability as shown in patent applications that I've shown before on NIO videos, right? So I think that might be the logical next step. And of course, NIO could then go and act as a supplier to these partners like Chang'an or Geely. And actually, that's also what I'm hearing from some other institutional investors who have had calls with NIO management, that NIO is actually working on something like becoming a platform provider for other OEMs. At this point, I would put this out as speculation because I have no way of confirming it other than telling you that this is what I'm hearing. But I think it would be consistent here as a part of a revenue stream that if NIO had developed a new platform, an Alps platform, an NT 3.0 platform that could be more capable to serve other clients as well and be more multi-brand, more mass market focused, then this also explains why we're now seeing these cooperation agreements being signed and happening. The question is also why it's happening now. And I think it's because now it's time to announce that they are working towards these common standards, working towards starting. Chang'an, for example, has announced to start working on a vehicle that will be published in 2025, based on this platform, I assume. And so, now is the time to announce such kind of co-investment, co-construction, and cooperation agreements. And a couple more years down the line, we'll then see also how this has actually impact on the balance sheets of these companies and in terms of sales and revenues and so on. And so if NIO is a supplier, then they would get maybe just one-time fees, maybe a royalty fee. Maybe they could, do something like, really helping these companies even do their R&D. So these might be some type of consulting services on top. Who knows? Maybe NIO has reserved one of these factories in NIO Park and those additional factories that are currently setting up for simply this NT 3.0 platform to serve the whole industry. That would be my suspicion here. Of course, they could also open another revenue stream, which would be charging for swapping services. So the swap itself, that would be rather, of course, on the NIO swap stations. And I mentioned in my take before that I think they're not going to open that one to the mass market, but maybe to some selected brands where they indeed could charge for that, simply as they're also charging for those who are supercharging at NIO superchargers currently. So the same system could work. Maybe if these 4.0 swap stations have been engineered, R&D'd by NIO and will be also put in place by NIO, maybe they even have a way of charging other brands for the usage of that. However, I think here this is also where the point of co-investment is coming in. I'm not expecting that NIO will just invest in and build those swap stations on its own. I think that might be rather happening in the collaboration with all of these partners who are going to join now. And this is also another benefit indirectly, because NIO is building out a larger battery swap system compatible with NIO cars, but doesn't have to shoulder all of the cost aligned with that. And that could happen in many different ways. That could happen in simply, as they have done with the battery asset management company, right? They found a new company, the partners are all jointly investing in that, and then the company could even, raise external funds and basically, providing these services simply as the battery asset management company is currently doing to the NIO company that we are invested in. And that could work, but there are, of course, also other ways of doing that. The main thing here is going back to the prospectus of Bailey and Gifford. There seems to be IP aligned to that is in the hands of NIO for swapping, for the patents, for the services, and so on. That will be monetized in that way through these partners and new initiatives. Currently, of course, that's very hard to put a number on that, and that's what's currently missing from these announcements. But I'm very certain that this will happen once all of that is put into place and once they start operating. I think at that point they will also be starting talking about the numbers. Now they could also, of course, charge for services like the BAS type of services, the separation between the body part and the battery, what's happening with the battery as an asset, what's happening with insurance, what's happening with the afterlife recycling, for example, what's happening during the life cycle with the topic of battery health management. And so all of that are services that could be provided by NIO, as they have vast experience with that, with their operations with the NIO Power service system, as well as with the Alton NIO invested system. So all of that could be provided by NIO and therefore also be monetized in that way. And additionally, if these companies are looking to create new battery swapping platforms maybe on their own, which are also still compatible with the big battery swap stations, then NIO could also provide some sort of R&D help there and charging fees for that. So all of that will lead into the more clarity to this development into these battery swapping standards for both private cars and commercial vehicles. So it will be the first time for NIO also to enter the space of commercial vehicles. So now also becoming a B2B provider, not only B2C provider. And that's, of course, also an expansion of the business scope and therefore more optionality, more larger total addressable market, and so on. All of that is increasing the possibilities for NIO, at least if they're going to capture the market and monetize the market. That, of course, is up to you to decide in the end whether or not you think they will be successful. But what we can say with those agreements going on, they're certainly attempting to do that, right? And yeah, so I think that's kind of how to read these kind of statements there. And I'm hoping that this is us answering the question by our Patreon member, Stephen, here. And so maybe just for my own personal expectations here, I'm expecting that this will all unfold because I've seen this in the making, similarly to Bailey and Gifford. I've seen this in the making since a couple of years. Also with the initiatives of actually creating those battery swap standards. So I'm having not much of a doubt that this is going to happen. As I mentioned, for these 4 or 5 companies to join, it's looking increasingly likely that more will join, maybe all of them will join, and that will trickle down. I spoke before that I think, for example, that Mercedes is very likely to come. In my point of view, it's a done deal, but we'll see at what time it will be announced and when all of that comes together. But let me just say so much that I don't think that it'll stop there, right? I do think that at some point it will be also a race to the few open spaces left, and it will become just a natural thing to have swap stations along gasoline stations at highways in China. This will be a large build out of infrastructure, and I think NIO has proven that it's scalable. that it can be commercialized, and that it has user acceptance. And the next point now is China speed scaling of that with a partner, collaborative approach. And then I think what's also going to happen next, of course, is that this is not only a mobility play, but this is, of course, and that's why the state grid is also involved. It's in the interest of also the state grid to have a balanced grid in which swap stations will play a powerful role in order to help balancing the grid. That's also, in my point of view, another revenue stream that might be unlocked at some point in time. And NIO will greatly benefit from that, because that is a way of really monetizing this infrastructure that I've built out with another use case on top. And I've posted already in the Patreon community a couple of things, how I'm seeing how the energy market is evolving in China. So the energy trading is in its infancy, but it's just getting started, and will actually just scale up from here. And I've done videos before here on the public channel around the prospects of virtual power plants. And so all in all, what can I say? I think, NIO is doing what they said they would do. It's just happening step by step, not at each point of the step. Everything, is going into the final big picture. There are still many question marks out there. How this will all, ultimately benefit NIO as a company. I see a clear path towards this, but of course this could still fail. So I'm not saying that this is a done deal in the end for battery swapping and NIO taking the lead here and monetizing it in the end. But I think they're on a good way. And hopefully now they're also starting to, externally communicate that one a little bit better, also during the earnings call maybe this week, and also into their outside marketing of not only the benefits of battery swapping for the users, but also for society as a whole in terms of the energy grid balancing efforts, but also for the stockholders, of course, and the company that it benefits that by the fact that it just invested aggressively, invested earlier as everybody else, and with a bigger power than everybody else. Because if you see BMW, Mercedes, they're now partnering up to build some superchargers in China. This is all cosmetics. This is all a little bit of a marketing efforts. Li Auto is now investing up to $3 billion in order to build fast chargers that have great capabilities of charging the car in 12 minutes, up to 80%. So they all still need to make that investment. NIO has done it earlier. NIO is building something much, much bigger here, much beyond cars, much beyond NIO as a company only. It's an ecosystem, it's a network, and that's hopefully what's coming into effect at some point in time. So I hope you enjoyed that one, a little bit longer ones, but I hope it's still insightful. Thanks for watching, and then let's hope the next week will be brilliant with new earnings.